I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
But which Paul Greenberg are you?
Well, that remains to be seen.
Well, either way, we are the CRM Playaz, and we're glad to be here.
Yeah, we really are, aren't we?
I feel good.
I do
Nice sunny
too.
day out. Looks good.
Here it's a little overcast, but it's kind of high of 78. Yesterday was like 86 yesterday.
86.
Yeah, it was really hot here yesterday.
I think you guys beat us.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a first.
Just checking to make sure that we're actually like streaming because I don't see a greeting from our buddy Sven yet. That's kind of
You know what?
yeah.
There's something. Let's quit the show.
Oh,
Oh
wait a
wait,
minute.
this somebody's
As soon
coming
as I
in
said
there.
that,
Whew. Sven, you had us worried, man.
yeah, I thought we were
Now,
gonna
what
just have to.
language is this?
I don't know. Allo
I,
vriende.
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 Allo Vriende.
I like the
Hmm.
allo. Allo.
I know. I really like this statement. I just don't know what language it is.
Well, I'm sure he'll tell us.
Sven, you've got us stumped on this one.
Definitely. Well, while we wait for that, we had the 100th happy hour yesterday. That's a
Yep.
milestone.
It's amazing if you think about it. I mean, we've done it since I think it was April 6th, 2020. Now that's 100. It was 106 weeks ago is when we started it, and we missed 6 happy hours. We didn't do 6. So yesterday was the 100th, and it was a milestone event. Yet nobody wanted to give away. I was
You were
trying,
giving away a
man.
bag.
Well, but it was a great bag. It's a camera bag. It's a $300 camera bag that's never been used that handles a 13-inch laptop.
Look at that. Africano.
Afrikaans.
Ah,
There's an S.
look at
It's
that.
Afrikaans with an S.
Nice.
Wow, thank you.
Very cool. All right. So we do have a really cool guest. We've had him on before. We've had him on before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause I know I did a one-on-one when I think it was during the CCE from like 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever it was, something like that. And I had a chance to sit down and talk to Steve Reese, who will be our guest, CIO for the Phoenix Suns,
Yep.
amongst other things.
So many other. He's. You want to talk about a genuine visionary, genuinely nice human being, and we'll talk about the award he just won, actually.
Yep.
And I'm sure we'll talk about the en fuego nature of his team.
Best record in the NBA.
Yeah,
We'll talk
I
about
still
all that.
remember. Wasn't it like 3 years ago that they were always losing? Just like 3 years ago, wasn't it?
It wasn't that long ago. And then they
Yeah,
got Chris Paul,
yeah. That started the trend up.
right? And they already actually they already had Devin Booker,
That's right.
and then they drafted the number one pick overall, DeAndre Ayton. I think that's his name. So yeah,
Don't know.
and then they got
I mean,
Monty Williams as the coach,
Yep.
and so
And
on
it's
and so forth.
been
We'll talk about
gravy
all that.
since. Yes, we will.
But before we do, I wanted to get your take because I posed a question yesterday at the what do you call it? The happier hour?
The even more joyous hour.
Yeah, that.
EMJH.
I asked everybody what their thoughts were on the guy from Tesla,
Elon
Elon
Musk.
Musk. What their thoughts were on him taking a 9% stake, and
Yeah,
initially
that's
they were saying he was
escalated,
going to join the
hasn't it?
board. Then he said he's not going to join the board.
Yeah. Now we know
I-
why he didn't.
Yeah. So I didn't see it. It didn't feel like there was a lot of positive momentum around him doing the 9%. So today we find out he wants the whole shooting match. He wants 100%.
54.20 a share.
Well, and I think it's like 43 billion, which is still only a mere pittance for him, you know? So what do you think?
I don't like it. That one, yesterday I was a little more diffident. This one I don't like at all. The problem, look, he's been critical of Twitter for a long time, and he uses it all the time, obviously.
Yeah.
But
Well, he's got 82 million, at least 82 million followers.
yeah, but the problem I have with that is that would be literally a one-man show owning Twitter, and one-man show who is at best a
He's a loose
quirky
cannon.
human being,
He's a
and
loose cannon.
and possibly not all that great a person. You know, given everything. I mean, it's frightening. Well, even a great, wonderful person, I wouldn't want them to own Twitter either. The reality is this: it's a communications medium that, to some extent, look, it's got a lot of problems, and historically has had a lot of problems and never overcome a lot of things. But at the same time, it's a staple for communications now. I mean, everyone uses it. Twitter going away would be a bad thing, not a good thing.
Or being under the control of one person.
Right. Well, that would be even worse than Twitter going away.
You're right.
And under his control, even worse than that.
Well, if you notice, one of the things he said when he, I guess made his intentions known, he was talking a lot about free speech and upholding the rights for free speech, which immediately I started thinking, oh, who may be loving this, who will be unleashed once again to say whatever lies he wants to.
Yeah.
If this happens, it's been such a nice year or so, a little over a year, of not having to go to Twitter and see the rantings of a crazed lunatic who we have to pay attention to because he has a certain office that we all have to pay attention to. It was just nice. It's still nice. I don't want that to go away.
Yeah, I don't either. But the implications of, I mean, look, Elon Musk is brilliant in his own way. He really is, and there's no denying that. But at the same time, to him to be the arbiter for an entire communications channel, no, no way.
He will never be able to keep his hands off of it.
No, he's already proving that. He's trying to take it. It's a hostile takeover.
When you think about Bezos and the Washington Post, you think about Benioff and Time, you don't really feel like there's been a huge shift or change in the editorial, before they were acquired by billionaires versus afterwards. This is not going to be that same case.
It's a very different medium too. I mean, the
Washington
Post, if let's say Bezos decided it's my paper, I'm going to do what I want with it. You still got the New York Times, the LA Times. You got a lot of newspapers out there that aren't his. Right. Mark Benioff, say he goes off the rails and he decides I'm going to make Time Magazine a brochure for Salesforce. There's a million magazines out there that are, and there's a million counters. There's no counter to Twitter as a medium in the same kind of medium. I mean, there is an attempt with the right wing trying to do what they're doing, but the reality is there is no counter Twitter, right?
Right.
Twitter is Twitter, and he's taking over the entire medium, not just one thing in it, right? And that would be a disaster.
Wait a minute. He's buying Medium too?
Yeah, right. Well, that one they can have, right? I'll give him that one. Write whatever you want on there. Blog away.
I think. Oh, I hope this doesn't pan out, because I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a hostile takeover too, which makes it. Although, you know what I will say, I mean, it's what do you call it? PeopleSoft was, Oracle did a hostile takeover of PeopleSoft, and it kind of worked out. Weirdly,
like you said before, it's like apples and oranges here.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it'll work out. I mean, it's not that hostile takeovers always don't. But that adds fuel to the flame. I mean, look, I think basically when he was going to sit on the board, and then I think at that point he decided, no, you know what, I'm going to buy it. I think he withdrew from the board. That's what I think. I think they wouldn't sit him on the board to shut him up.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah, Sven's right. It is kind of quiet in the chat.
It is a nice day. Maybe there's a lot. People are outside. People are starting to go back to conferences too.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot. I'm having all kinds of inquiries. Are you going to be at blah 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 blah? And my answer is still the same. Not till June.
Yeah, me too.
You got
doing that AB or BE, Omicron.BAB or whatever it is.
Yeah, the BA2.
Yeah, that
BA2.
So we'll see how that pans out.
It's predominant right now, but then also there's no giant increase down here anyway. There's no giant increase in the number of cases yet.
Right. Okay. So before we bring on our guest, and I see him in the green room.
All right.
Yeah, he's waving. Hey there. We'll talk to you in a few. All right. So before we bring him out, I have been paying attention to is it the IAPP Privacy Summit going on in DC?
And that's the initials, but I haven't paid attention.
Yeah. Well, I don't think many people. I mean, this is a conference that's been going on for years. Yeah. It's not anything new. But
it's a big conference.
It's a big conference, and this year is different because Tim Cook is one of the keynotes.
Huh.
And I've got a little clip I want to play because this little clip may be the most important clip I've heard from a big time CEO at one of the big tech companies in quite a while. Okay. I don't know if it'll stand up, but I want you to check this out.
Okay.
Our privacy that gives us the freedom to explore different ideas, to indulge our curiosity, to dream big and take chances and make mistakes. It is privacy that lets us be and become ourselves without being afraid that our every move will be seen, recorded, or leaked. A world without privacy is less imaginative, less empathetic, less innovative, less human. At Apple, that is not the world we want to live in. We believe that privacy is a fundamental human right, one that is essential to our vision of a world where technology enriches people's lives. And to help create that world, we are fighting for privacy in multiple areas of our work. The first area is a familiar one. It is a commitment to protecting people from a data industrial complex built on a foundation of surveillance. At this very moment, companies are mining data about the details of our lives, the shops and restaurants we frequent, the causes we support, the websites we choose to read. These companies defend their actions as pure of intention, as the work of better serving us with more targeted experiences. But they don't believe we should have a real choice in the matter. They don't believe that they should need our permission to peer so deeply into our personal lives. Who would stand for such a thing if it were unfolding in the physical world?
That might be the best 2 minutes of a keynote from a big time CEO I've heard in a long time.
So the question is, obviously, how much actual action is Apple putting that into, right?
Well, that's why we gotta have to wait till next year to see if what he said actually carried through. But what he said, the data industrial complex, the foundation for surveillance capitalism, that right there really does say it all.
Well, that's how to put this. It's scary because it's scalable. Meaning like if you go surveillance and capitalism, well, surveillance, period, forget capitalism, has always been part of government in one way or the other. But now,
But now everybody's doing it,
well, that's the thing.
not just the
It's actually
government.
been privatized,
Yeah.
right?
And
So
monetized.
yeah, fully.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
By
the
the
dark
way,
web exists because of that.
Tim Cook is not in the green rooms, Finn. Sorry.
We have somebody much better actually is in the green room.
Matter of fact, why don't you introduce our guest?
Oh, this is a pleasure and a joy. So our guest today is Steve Reese, and he is the CIO of the Arizona. I was about to say the Diamondbacks. I was thinking of Christmas. CIO of the Phoenix Suns.
Wrong
And
sport.
here's the thing about Steve, though. I met him due to the SEAT conference that both you and I went to several years ago, and we were actually, when we got our first chance to really talk, we were sitting on a bus going somewhere, and found out that both of us were loaded up with gadgets related to our health. I mean, literally, like all over our bodies were these gadgets related to our health, and we were talking about all of that, and we ended up continuing to talk and became really good friends. And the thing with Steve, you got to understand, which is he's not what people think a typical CIO is. He's that, of course, but he's far more. He's a visionary thinker. He's a innovator. He has a range, an enormous sense of curiosity, but he does things with it. So, for example, and we'll talk some about this, he initiated a few years ago a whole series of sleep studies that not only became a foundation for, some of the things that people at the Suns were doing, but well beyond that. He's always looking ahead to what has to be done to improve not just the team, not just the league, but the world, really. And finally, he's just a great person. I mean, he's just so nice. I love him. I am so happy we have him. And by the way, he has a fantastic marriage. His wife, Joanne, she's awesome, right? So this is a great guy. So
And
I'm ready to roll.
he knows the value of a good night's sleep.
Yes, he does.
Very good. And we can bring him on with applause because we now give you the State of Arizona CIO of the Year
Yeah, there you go.
Leadership Award winner, Steve Reese.
There he is.
Well, it's great being here. Oh my goodness, Paul, you almost cost me a world title ring if the Suns make it all the way by social media with the D-backs. But this is great.
Yeah, I know.
But you pulled back. You did great.
No, I actually was thinking. I was talking actually or texting, let's say within the last 24 hours with Christine. That's what made me think of it. Right.
Yeah.
She was the CIO of the D-backs in 2007.
Yeah.
So how you doing, my friend?
Well, doing wonderful. 7 hours and 39 minutes of sleep last night. There we go. We kept it. My amygdala is well under control. My prefrontal cortex is operating the way it should. Doing fantastic. It's been a real busy 2 years, between naturally for everybody, COVID hitting, and then the largest work from home experiment that the country's ever seen in history. And then on top of that, we ended up having an arena renovation as well as a new training facility being built. So in some respects, it was really a blessing in disguise, and that we were so busy during all of COVID, we didn't have a whole lot of time to think about what was going on. And so it's been, a wonderful ride. The team did great last year. They're doing good this year. Cross your fingers. Let's hope they continue to stay on track like they should. And we've got the office renovation now as the last piece that takes place this summer. And then we're going to have to get to the fall and sit back and think, boy, what do we do when we grow up? What's the next challenge? Where do we go from here?
I actually, oddly, not usually what I do, but I have a technology question for you. Actually, when you said you had to build a new training center, that's what kind of triggered it. So when you're being the CIO at that point, what are you actually looking to do from a technology standpoint with something that's a training that, I mean, when somebody says training in the business enterprise technology world, they're mostly talking about training salespeople. You're literally talking about something that's actually a lot more, let's say, both maybe mental and maybe technique, but there's a lot of physical aspects to that too. So how do you think of technology just in that big scope way of training?
Yeah, we ended up signing a sponsorship agreement with Verizon Wireless, and it's named the Verizon 5G Center. And so with that, there was such an infusion of technology that Verizon brought in with it. And a lot of it is to either track the way our players shoot, some of it's to track spacing, ball movement, part of it's to track physical health. And a lot of teams do the same things we do. Where we're trying to differentiate it is to provide instantaneous feedback when players are on the court in the practice facility. So then what that does is carry over to the game. During the game itself, I mean, we will collect, oh my God, I'm trying to think of what the last count was, but we're collecting, over 150 observations per second on the court. XY
Wow.
coordinates of the players, the ball, the refs,
Oh my
everything
God.
that's out there. And so when you take that disgustingly large amount of data, what you want to be able to do is to prevent paralysis by analysis when you're, out there, and you want to be able to react, because really these players, what differentiates them, not only being incredible physical specimens, but also their ability to think and to adapt. And so what we try to do is during the season itself is try to go ahead and oh, hang on one sec. I got a little bit of feedback here. Oh, hang on.
You sound good on our end.
Let me hit my mic here real quick.
All right.
Because I'm getting some crazy feedback.
Okay.
But what we try to do, oh, there we go. That's a heck of a lot better. So what we try to do is to provide a structure for these players where then they can feel what these adjustments feel like while they're in practice. And then when they're in the game, they can make those adjustments seamlessly. And so one of the pieces of technology we have is a thing called Shot Tracker. And what that does is really encourage the spacing of players. And so one of the things, not being I'm a football coach by training, not really a basketball player, is looking at I admire just the spacing and just the ball movement going during the game. So we have this one piece Shot Tracker that tracks that. We have another thing called NOAA that also goes ahead and tracks the
Oh, he must have hit something.
He blew off somewhere.
It's currently saying his device is not connected. I think he was fiddling around with something there.
Yeah,
Hopefully
he just kind of
come back soon. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll track it. Hopefully he'll be back shortly.
That's right.
Oh, I think I see something happening.
His XY coordinates are showing up.
There he is.
There we go. Golly, what the heck?
We tracked your XY coordinates.
Man, I tell you what, my XY coordinates, maybe I just need to sit back from this microphone. Who knows? The other piece we have is one called NOAA, and that tracks the trajectory of the ball, whether it's left, right, front, back, as far as the rim is concerned, and the quality of the shot.
Oh my God. But how does it identify quality exactly?
That's a really good question. I think it's from the release of the hand. It's the force. It's based on where you're at on the court itself, and really what that angle is coming into the hoop. If you hit the back of the rim and in, you get a little bit of a ding on the shot. If it's a pure all nets coming into the right angle, then you get a higher quality grade. And so these are things that during the course of a practice, as players are out there and they're shooting and they're doing their thing, they can get instantaneous feedback just from NOAA on just that quality of the shot. And what they can do is, if they're having a difficult time shooting from different areas of the court, then that's where you really want to sit there and get that feel for what does that feel like? What's that shot look like leaving your hand? And so the idea is just real muscle memory and trying to get that feel. So when you're out there during the game, you don't fall back to old habits of thinking, this feels good. And maybe it's really not.
So basically, like Noah would go, okay, Chris, your shot is for you. Your shot is 5% under the ideal amount of force, and that's leading to it hitting the back of the rim and.
Right. So you just want to have a really good arc, a good angle coming into that hoop itself. And then you want to make sure that you're hitting square in the middle. So if you're off a little left, a little right, a little front, a little back, then that can impact the grade.
So it'll tell you add some force and reduce the
right. Then you can and you get that instantaneous grade when you're out there and you're practicing. And so then that's how you can adjust your shot itself. The other piece is one called Semi. And Semi is really cool. And as part of that, with Semi, we have, oh my God, probably 75 cameras, which are embedded in the ceiling itself and all around the side walls of the court. And then what we do is with that, Semi has an opportunity to look at how a player runs, their gait, and various things when they're on the court. And then if you go to our training room, we have a really big thing called a force plate. And it's this huge steel plate. Almost look like if you're at a laundry and you're weighing laundry on a cart, there's this big force plate, looks a little bit like that. It's embedded into the floor. And what we do is we have players run and bound across that plate. And this plate that we have is about 4 or 5 times bigger than the normal plate. And what we can do is we look at the different stages of a jump between the recoil, the jump, and then, the extension and coming down. And what we can do is measure the extremities. And so if a player is coming off, say, an ACL injury, we can have a pretty good idea based on a preseason measurement how far that player is from coming back from their particular injury.
Oh my God.
And so there's a lot of technology out there. What I'm concerned about really, as far as like take sleep that we've talked about in the past, is how do we take this technology and really apply it to everyday ordinary people like you and I? And that's the piece that I like to see is, how do hospitals and rehab centers go ahead and take this type of equipment and deploy that where they're at in order to allow people like you and I, so we can get out of the chair a little bit better, we can walk upstairs better, or those types of things, because those are really the challenges that we face. You get over, 50, 60. These are the challenges you have. So for me, it's been a real learning experience watching from afar how our trainers operate and the different things they do. And so that helps me to make adjustments to, my own physical routine as far as sleep and diet and all those sorts of things.
Have you actually made adjustments for how you go up a step upstairs and things?
Well, I have. I've had a couple of surgeries over the last few years, toe surgeries, feet surgeries, foot surgeries, knee, and everything else. But I think the real struggle I run into now is just becoming limber, stretching. So they have all sorts of stretch clinics all over the Phoenix, Scottsdale area. So I'm beginning to go to a stretch clinic and have them just twist me like a pretzel so I can stay more limber and that sort of thing.
So how has the whole area of sleep progressed over the last 2+ years? Because I think that was about the last time I talked to you.
Yeah, the last time we talked, we were in the midst of sleep boot camp for our employees number 2. We had a total of about 25 or so people that were involved in that. Then COVID hit, and it basically split everybody apart. So we made our way about 75% through it. Since then, we've been approached by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona. They're now looking into taking on this program so we can do another program here, not only at the Phoenix Suns, we can also roll that out around the state of Arizona. So we're going to go ahead and the plans are to do another pilot here. And then from there, let's go ahead and roll it out elsewhere. But, for people who hadn't listened to the podcast in the past, where a lot of this started was that our head athletic trainer at the time, a guy named Aaron Nelson, who's now the head trainer for the Pelicans, came to me and said, we need to fix sleep. We need to fix fat. We've got some players that are a little overweight and we've got people not sleeping enough. And kind of unbeknownst to me, Aaron was sleeping about 4 hours a night. I was sleeping 5 hours a night and honestly wore that lack of sleep like a badge of courage, which was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. And so with that, we began down this road of investigating so many different methods for sleep. I was in the sleep deprivation tank. I saw a hypnotist. I tried, God knows, 30 different devices on things to allow me to sleep better. And then what we landed on is the idea for both Aaron and the players, and we landed on for our staff here, is a sleep kit where we'll have about 15 different items in there because everybody's sleep challenge is just a little bit different. And what we'll do is we hand this kit out. We bring in 2 sleep scientists that walk us through a program. We'll meet 4 times over the course of 6 months. And everybody's challenge is a little bit different. But the first challenge is really, do you have obstructive sleep apnea? So we get everybody's sleep apnea tested initially. And then we begin to look into the metrics as far as, what are the after effects of not sleeping well and why are we here? And one of the biggest things that comes out of this, and it's just so heart touching when you sit with people. It's almost like an AA meeting, and you ask them, why are you here? And I kid you not, 90% of the people say, I just want to be a better person. I want to be a better father or a spouse, or I want to be better with my coworkers, or even if they don't notice anything that's out of the ordinary, I just want to be a better person internally and feel better about myself. And so as we dug deep into sleep, the thing that we had discovered is that if you're sleeping 6 or fewer hours a night, your fight or flight center, your brain, your amygdala, is going to be 60% more reactive. And you guys know this about me. I don't need to be 60% more reactive emotionally than what I am. I probably need to be less active. And then your prefrontal cortex, your ability to just control yourself and be a really good human being and not say anything that's out of bounds, is 70% less effective. And so a lot of the driving force here has been with, let's go ahead and just like ourselves better. But then there's a ton of other, positive effects that come out of it. But a lot of it ended up being just, how do we build better culture here at the Phoenix Suns, and how do we just become better people, better human beings?
I mean, do you find first that it's impacted Aaron's gone, but I guess the players and the other people who are participating, I know it's impacted you, but has it impacted other people as much as it's impacted you, let's say?
Yeah, it's crazy. We're seeing that there is a very, very solid impact in about 60% of the people that take it. There's other challenges for others we'll get into in a second, as far as scheduling. So a good example would be is our event staff. We've got a setup and teardown crew. So after our game, let's pretend that we're going to have a UFC fight in the arena the very next day. Then we've got a setup crew that really has to push it because they're working through the night. And one of the tenets of developing really good sleep is consistency, getting to bed at the same time every night. So that's the group that's really, really challenged. For the rest of us that have a fairly regular schedule, we're seeing a huge impact. So what we've got to do is to really lift our sisters and brothers up who are on that event team and figure out, what do we do to allow them to restore properly when your schedule is so up and down. To talk about how crazy the impact has been to your question, I was just walking in the hallway 15 minutes before our talk here and ran into one of the folks in our event staff, Marlo, who has also been part of our sleep boot camp, and we engaged in another sleep thing, or sleep discussion. So what it's done is it's really caused the discussion to be ongoing, which is really healthy. The impact people are seeing is, like in myself, I lost 30 pounds when I began to sleep. And a lot of that was because my diet changed, my metabolism increased. And I think that's what really woke me up to the impact of it, is not seeing people for a year, going to a SEAT conference, a sports technology conference, and people going, what the heck happened to you? And I'm just like, I just slept. I mean, that's all I did. I don't know what else I did. So yeah, we see the impact being really good, but where the other impact we're going to see is for people as we get older, because if you're sleeping 6 or fewer hours a night, your testosterone levels are going to be as somebody who is 10 years older. Your increased risk of cancer jumps by 70%. If you're getting 6 or fewer hours sleep a night, you're going to consume 300 more calories a day, that's where the COVID-15 is at. And during COVID, I believe the average weight gain throughout the country was about 29 pounds.
What?
And just as a side note, the work effort during COVID for the country as a whole, we as Americans worked 22 million hours additional a day. So crazy. We're home, we're stressed, we've got COVID, all this uncertainty, people work more. So do you think that maybe sleep got better when we were doing a work from home? I don't know. I don't know if it did. I think maybe we were more stressed. So as a country, I really feel like to turn our corner, we're going to need really two things. Brent, the piece that you played earlier on the privacy and social media and those sorts of things, that has got to somehow come under better control. That has got to have an impact on the fabric of the society. And I feel sleep is another major one. We're stressed. Why? We can't handle it as much because we don't sleep. So
yeah, no, it's fascinating. So let me ask you this. So you have these 25 people in the study, do you distribute the sleep kit to more than the people in the study, or just for the study itself?
Yeah, so there have been a few people who have not been in the study who have asked about it, and so we've given them the kit, we've given them the lowdown. But everybody who's in this study gets this kit, and it has a combination of like a white noise machine, it has chamomile tea, it's got a eye mask. They've got just a number of things in there that we can use this tool. So one of the tools that are in there is this tool that ends up feeling kind of comfortable on whoever is. It's like almost like a little blanket. Well, it doesn't do anything for me, but there's other people who've been in the study who have been like, holy smokes, this blanket's like the best thing since sliced bread. So it's just what we've had to do is just to learn that sleep is such a unique thing for everyone. How do we address it? The answers for you, Brent, are going to be a little bit different than Paul and everybody else. So
yeah, well, to that point, I noticed that, like, I know when I first met you, actually, I was probably sleeping 5 hours a night. Now I'm with medication though as part of this, but I'm sleeping about just short of 7, really. I mean, just short, like 6 hours and 45 minutes, probably the average. So many nights are 7 or more. Like last night, I slept 7 hours and 20 minutes.
Nice.
But the interesting thing to me isn't the medication it's a small dose. It doesn't last too long in your body. But there are other things you have to do to prepare for sleep. Aside from forget the medication. I noticed I meditate. I do breathing exercises. I have a habit. I make a habit of listening to. In my case, I listen to Sirius XM radio, Mad Dog Sports, or I listen to MLB, or I listen to something like that.
Right.
But it actually, weirdly, the routine, and a lot of it goes to feeling comforted when you're about to go to sleep. Right.
Yeah.
That's a lot of it goes to feeling, not to being comfortable, to feeling comforted. Right. I
agree.
I mean, I think that's to your point about the blanket too. You feel comforted by that. And it really, what it does is it reduces anxiety about sleep itself, because people are anxious about going to sleep.
And really I know for a lot of us, it's been, how do we get enough separation between when we fall asleep and getting away from work so the stress doesn't trigger 15 minutes before we go to bed? And so for a lot of us, what we begin to do is to prepare at about 1 o'clock for tonight's sleep. Like this right here is my last cup of coffee for the day, right? There's about a quarter cup in there, and this is left over from this morning. So we have to reduce that. Do I get a workout in? Can I get a walk in? Is there something I can do to kind of wear myself out? And one of the pieces we pass out in the kit is also a blue light filtering glasses to make sure that probably 7, 8 o'clock at night, the glasses pop on so that my body can produce more melatonin and that sort of thing. And frankly, Joanna and I had to draw kind of a sleep detente because she likes to go to bed with the TV on. I'd rather have it cold as heck in the room and no sound. So that's where what I've done is I put some headsets on. I play some acoustical beats from a company called Multicam that has this wonderful beats that kind of lull you to sleep. I put an eye mask on so Joanne has Frasier playing while I am falling asleep and I hear and see nothing. So, so a lot of it is just a strategy of how do you figure it out. But to tell everybody, it's very, very, we can figure this out. We can truly figure this out. This is a very solvable problem. You just have to look at yourself like a lab rat and say, hey, I'm committed to solving this puzzle, this biological puzzle, but it's very solvable, and take that for somebody who had some of the worst sleep habits in the world.
Amazing.
Wow. Could we kind of segue a little bit away to sleep, although I love a good sleep, believe me. Can you talk a little bit about maybe if there has been a change in the relationship that the team has with the fans since, you know, we hit the pandemic and now we're starting to come out of it, and you guys had the best record in the NBA and you're getting ready to go into the playoffs. The arena is going to be rocking. I know they were there last year, but now we're another year into this. How do you expect, or has the relationship changed at all from the beginning to where we are now? And if so, how have you kind of adapted to the change in the relationship?
Yeah, that's a great question. These fans are just crazy, and I mean that in the best sort of way. And to give you an illustration of how this is, I've got air quality meters at home and I've got them here at work. And what happens is when a game starts, our air in this arena is swapped out, fully swapped out, wholesale, brand new air in this arena 4 times an hour, 45 times an hour, with the filtration we have to meet all the challenges of COVID and everything else.
Wow.
With that being said, I can watch my air quality meter in my office, which is just right across the concourse, and I can see the particulate matter and the CO2 go through the roof when we hit about the middle of the first quarter. And that is all because we have 18,000 people, which are screaming in unison all at the same time. So I've got to tell you, it's really ended up being, this relationship with the fans has been incredible, because what we've seen is the fans always felt, and we feel internally as well, this team should have always been better, but now we are. And now's our time. And I think right now, I can tell you this from a front office standpoint and a fan standpoint, because that's just what we are, is that people are just like, we cannot let this time pass. I feel this year, if we don't win it all, there's going to be some major disappointment internally and externally. But what it's allowed us to do is just to really engage with the fans in a lot of fun, different ways, as far as outdoor spaces we have, merchandise. The merchandise is as good as I have ever seen. It's stellar. And so, and when you just walk around the city, you see people wearing Phoenix Sun stuff. And this was not the case 5 years ago. And so, being that this was Phoenix's original team, I just have to believe that there's a special place in the heart of everybody here in Arizona that looks at this as that original team. And so the relationship with the fans has gone great. The pressure on us has been to make sure we can deliver in the arena, as far as, you know, merchandise, and as far as food and beverage, and making sure the experience is really good. And I think that's where, Brent, a little bit, this feeling has changed, because as now people walk in this arena, it's much more wide open, and it just looks sexy when you walk in. And so that relationship has changed, where people, it's like walking into a new home. People just feel good about where they're at. And then you've got this team that's winning, and then you walk into during the playoffs and you see ESPN is all set up right along the edge of the rail as you're walking in to the stadium. So it's been incredible. It's been, you know, and I'm gonna give you one story. It's a little bit embarrassing, but it's a great one. I was at a CIO event a year ago, and we were just heading into the first playoff game. But I sit on the advisory board for this group, and so we go ahead and we have to give our spiel. And I realize, okay, our first game is getting ready to go. I got to get rolling, and I leave, and everybody stands up and begins to applaud.
Wow.
I'm not used to that. And I'm thinking, I'm just a lucky guy who gets to work here. And I was really taken back and just somewhat embarrassed because it's changed from my brothers telling me, oh, geez, I hate the Suns. And now we've flipped to the other side. And now we've got that sort of reaction. So the fans have done really well. They've embraced us, and it's turned out to be a really, really wonderful ride.
Well, speaking of CIO events, Arizona CIO of the Year. I mean, that's like a big deal. So how does that, well, first of all, how does that come about? I mean, who nominates you? What's the process for it?
Yeah, I didn't realize that I was in the running for this until about 2 months after the fact. Uh, Part of it emanated from an event that we did here. We invited 40 or so CIOs from the Valley to take a look at our arena renovation and what we'd done. We'd had a panel group of people from different disciplines between security and AV, engineering and game entertainment and IT, talk about the challenges that we ended up going through in building this arena. And then we did a pretty extensive tour and showed them a lot of things that people just weren't aware of. Unbeknownst to me, as part of that group, there were some national board members who were part of this group and whatnot. And we were being evaluated as to becoming a candidate to end up getting the leadership award for CIO of the Year here in Arizona. And so this ended up being brought up at the local level, then debated at the national level with Inspire CIO. And that's how it ended up coming about. A lot of what they look at is what's your philosophy as far as how you lead. What's the tenor of your team? What's the atmosphere here? They called a lot of former coworkers and colleagues that I worked with in the past. And if I'd have known all that, man, I'd have been a lot more nervous. But so that's how it came about. But it's just a huge honor, just because the people who've come before me have all been Fortune 500 leaders. And now we have essentially a small company person that wins this. And so just to be talked about in the same category as some of these people is really humbling.
So what are you going to win next year?
let's work on a ring, baby. Let's work on that. The rules that we set out for the finals, and a couple of my friends around the league is that winner pays. Loser doesn't pay. It's hard enough losing. So last year when we lost to the Milwaukee Bucks, there's a very good friend of mine, Ron Kiepert, who runs a lot of the IT for the arena, runs all the IT for the arena for the Bucks. And him and I met at a hotel here, and Suns were on a roll. We didn't realize Chris Paul was hurt at the time and all the other stuff that had happened. And naturally what happened is that we just said it's going to be too painful if you end up losing. So what the heck, winner ought to pay. And so 2 days after we lost, I ended up with a big case of beer and wine on my front porch. So I hope to really repay somebody else that gift next year and allow me to go ahead and say, hey, here's your beer and wine. So a lot of us are debating on it, but we're really setting up a new trend to say, hey, celebrate the victory of who won. But if you've won, hey, you're gracious. And a lot of that started from a good friend of mine, Bill Schlau, who's at the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, I met him.
Every time spring training comes around and the Giants win, or whoever wins, if they're in the West, whoever wins, they take everybody out to eat on this side of town. And so thanks to Bill, he set a great example of leadership right there and graciousness. And so we've decided to kind of pass that on in the NBA.
So how are you using, I don't know, mobile technology a little differently as part of the fan experience?
Yeah, good question. So what we've had to do first is our first piece was just blocking and tackling. We ended up having a refresh of the cellular system itself, because what we wanted to be able to do is to disperse routes that people go in order to just gain cellular service. And what do they receive on their device? Whether it is, a lot of it is social media, pushing content out or receiving it. So what we did is we did a wholesale replacement of the 4G system. It's a neutral DAS. It also includes T-Mobile and AT&T and Verizon. So we ended up upgrading that. We put in 5G in the bowl of the arena itself and a few other small areas. We're going to have that expanded throughout the entire arena this summer. And that's where the magic is going to really take place at, when we can begin to have responsive signage and various things like that. And then we also upgraded our Wi-Fi to an Aruba network. So what we've done is basically given fans 3 pathways where they can receive and send content. Last year was the first time during the playoffs that I have really not heard a complaint regarding how people interact on a mobile side, because we've given everybody an opportunity to go one of 3 different ways. So on that piece, the other thing that we've done is there's also a few products from Verizon. One is called Multicam, which gives us the opportunity, if you're sitting in the stands, to see a play or a replay from multiple different angles. And that basically that replay is going to drag behind the play by about 30 seconds. So it's really kind of nice. If there's one hell of a great play, then you can just grab your device, use Multicam, and you can begin to look at what that replay was. So you kind of hear first a cheer, and then you hear a silence, and then you hear another cheer as people are re-looking at it, depending on what the deal is. Or if there's a foul or something that shouldn't have been called a foul, then you hear more pushback on the refs. The other piece that I saw just the other day is this incredible AI piece. We have one of our coaches, Mark West. They just took this picture of him off the internet, and they turned it into this augmented reality piece where they've picked up his voice on a few podcasts and various things where he was at. And then what they've done is given fans the opportunity to come up and ask the screen questions, and then Mark can answer. That was just an initial rollout that I've seen about 2 weeks ago. But I think once 5G comes into play, that's going to really give us the opportunity to do some really neat stuff, because then we have fast compute travel back and forth very quickly, and that's going to be the good piece. So right now, a lot of it is just ideation around what can we do to reduce the friction. I feel like we've done that, at least as far as the cellular system is concerned, but we need to, on the 5G side, make sure that we really kind of push the envelope a little bit more on the engagement piece, and that's going to allow us to do that.
Mark West, he's a long-time Phoenix Sun. I remember him when he was playing.
Well, and I saw the picture of him, and I was up close, and I was like, holy mackerel, this looks like he's really here. If that were my picture up there, it would scare the heck out of me. So anyway.
What about for fans who can't attend, right, who aren't actually at the venue, but who are, rabid Phoenix Suns fans? But, ultimately, how do you kind of engage them during the playoffs or even during the regular season? How do you engage them?
I'm not sure what our plans are for this year, but I know last year we had several events that during the game we had a second screen experience where it just ended up being this dialogue. It's a little bit like Peyton and Eli just talking during the game, and we would have various guests come in. I'm hoping we would do the second screen experience again. I'm not quite sure, but that's how we engaged a lot of our fans that were off-prem. And I know for some of our away games, man, I absolutely love that, because we would have former players on, and you would learn a lot about the franchise that you normally did not learn about without that second screen experience. So that's one way we do it. And then for a lot of our away games, we're going to anyway have fans within the arena anyway, watching the game here collectively, so we can all cheer together and kind of keep that fan experience rolling. So for fans that may not be able to afford who knows what the demand pricing on the tickets is going to be, but they can come here for $10 for the away games and have a experience that's going to be pretty darn good. And it's really about getting the tribe together and getting all of us together to kind of cheer for one common cause. And I would have taken that for granted 3 years ago, but now after being through this COVID dip, those types of options are becoming really important. And then we also now built a beach on the east side of the stadium, where we also have a lot of video screens out there and entertainers and a DJ and food and beverage out there, and allowing fans to come into there and kind of gather as well. So I know that some of those events will be probably planned as well.
So you mean like a beach with sand?
A beach with sand. We had tons and tons of sand that were carted in there. I was standing there when I saw the trucks coming.
Take it out, literally go outside and bring it in.
Yeah, I just worried about all the neighborhood cats, but that was just my own personal worry.
That would be great. Bring them in. I'm all for bringing them in.
So we have to sift the sand every day to make sure it's clean.
Wow.
Holy God. That alone,
I'm
drive
still
eventually nuts.
I'm still like fascinated by the air purification thing that you talked about. How often does fresh air get rifled into
The
to the
air is
arena?
replaced in the arena 4 times an hour.
Wow.
4
An
times an hour.
hour.
Right. Now, I have a little bit of a lung condition, so I cannot tell you how much personally I appreciate that. I just love it because if I'm sitting in that arena and I'm screaming, and before we had this system in place, I'd really feel it for a day or so after I left. I mean, I'd feel my lungs burn. Now I walk out of here and I'm intact, which is wonderful. But I mean, my meter is sitting right over there. It shows the air quality of what's going on, and normally it'll sit at about a score of a 1 to 100, and 93 is where it sits normally, and it looks great. Right now it's sitting at about 89, so it's pretty good air quality. But you get fans in here all screaming together, and it'll drop down to about 60 or 50 for a little bit, and then dip back up once the everybody gets a break and the air is flushed out and the new air is brought in.
So when you actually pump the air in and you're looking at your air quality meter, all of a sudden is it kind of all of a sudden it just drops?
Yes, yeah, and so yeah, it does. It basically, you'll see it travel up during the first quarter, and then peak, and then I'll get a warning that I need to bring more plants into my room, which that's not going to do it.
Wow.
I'll get the warning on my watch, and then you'll see it travel up, and then you'll see it drop down, and then whatever they do on the backside, then it seems to maintain at a pretty reasonable level. But once it peaks, they must get something on the engineering side that says, "Hey, crank it up," and kind of off they go.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be a really comforting feeling as a fan, knowing that you're getting fresh air like every 15 minutes or so.
Right. And another thing to watch for is when you're in the stands, you're going to see in the corners of the arena these 3 massive bulbs that are in each corner, and you'll see those flash every once in a while. And I was wondering, what the heck is that? Well, that's actually tied to our photographer who's sitting on the floor, who's taking a picture, and that's his flash, which is coming out of the roof of the out of the ceiling of the arena. So if you ever go to a game, just look in the corners and you're going to see this boosh, 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 this flash take place periodically. And that's exactly what's going on. That's our modern day flash.
That's his actual flash?
That's his actual flash. So if he needs it, there we go. There's the flash. And he's taking the pictures. Wow. And then what he does is upload these from a port that we have on the back of the stanchion, back of the hoop. And it sits right there and he plugs into it. And so that's how the pictures end up going so fast. But it was just weird, just a photographer. And this is the level of detail that I've seen in this arena where I'm like, holy smokes. We've got flash photography taking place from the ceiling of the arena.
That is amazing. I still remember I had a Polaroid land camera, and it was right. And you'd take the picture, and you'd wait, and then you'd have to get this horrible smelling fluid on it, or else it would deteriorate immediately, and it would be like 20 minutes before you actually had a picture. And now this guy literally has my flash. Oh yeah, it's there and there.
Right. I'm with you.
Uploaded instantly. Oh my God.
There are things about the arena that just amaze me. We have 2 of the biggest pizza ovens I've ever seen. And when we were destroying the arena to build it back up, these pizza ovens had to be brought in, and we built around them in these 2 premium spaces.
Oh my God.
And so there's just a million of these little things that you would never know about an arena renovation, but you get into that. And
you realize how fascinating that's a story that really does need to be told, because it's fascinating.
I agree. Everything you didn't want to know about an arena, but it's pretty interesting.
No, but it's not. Well, but Brent and I were once at a Zoho event at was Oracle still at the time. They were at Oracle, and Kenny Lauer, who we all know, came forward and he came up to the box we were in, and he showed us this on his iPhone. He was heading marketing up, right? He showed us what was going to happen over the entire period
to the minute.
By the minute.
Wow.
It was all fully engaged. Every single thing was mapped, planned, but it was all focused around precision and escalating the experience, right? Which was absolutely phenomenal. But the level of detail was mind-blowing. Like, this person's going to walk out of that entrance in at 3:42 and 18 seconds, right? I mean, it was like that level. But I mean, in a similar fashion, there's all these operational things that are happening that, as fans, you're experiencing the whole thing. But to get there, it's astounding at the level of actual depth of operations that's going on just to achieve it in the venue. It was mind-blowing seeing Kenny, and what you are describing is equally as, if not even more, mind-blowing. I mean, like Brent, I'm astounded at 4 times an hour.
Yeah. It's incredible. Yeah, and it makes you really appreciate, it's a little bit like the butterfly effect, right? I mean, the old law that was, the old theory that became law, that if a butterfly flaps its wings, it moves molecules, and it causes, eventually molecules to move in Brazil. It creates a hurricane in Houston. But, there's just lots of little butterflies around here that flap their wings in different ways, air quality and picture quality and all these, fan engagement and all these things. And when you step back and look at what all the various butterflies did around here during this, it's astounding, and it really makes you proud to be part of this organization. So
amazing. That was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, Steve, it's been really great catching up, and I'm still fascinated by the air thing. I think it's really cool. Thanks again for joining us. And
you are
any predictions for what happens in the playoffs?
I just have a hope, and that is that this team plays the way they're capable of playing. I'm a firm believer they're very, very strong-minded people, very tough, and I just hope we reduce. We just don't have any injuries, and if that be the case, let everything take care of itself. But no predictions, but just a hope. You run into this as a front office staffer about every 10 to 15 years. And my drought's been about 25 years right now since the Titans made it to Super Bowl 34. So my hope is, God, let's just push this. Let's push this rock over the line, and let's make this happen.
That was not a good.
I have to apologize. I'm sorry. You came up a yard short.
I know, and I said it just for you. Hey, I'll admit, but I'm waiting for my case of beer and wine from you, Brent. I haven't received it yet.
Well, I'll just wish you the best of luck.
Well, thank you.
But my team's not really in it, so I'll root for you.
There you go. So cross the fingers.
His team is the Knicks. When was the last time they were actually? Well, they were in it last year. They made the playoffs.
Well, the playoffs is not the Knicks winning anything. The Knicks. Last time the Knicks were serious competitors was like 1972.
Right.
Well,
no, they
made it to
in the 90s.
Yeah, they got close. They almost beat Houston there.
Yeah, almost.
Right.
I had good teams then, but 72. I think we won was 72, and that was probably the last time we won anything.
73
doesn't matter. Such a yeah, you're right. Actually, 73. It's dysfunctional team. So what can I tell you? But I'm still rooting for him. Still root for him.
All right, Steve. Seriously, good luck. I like the Suns. I think you have a really good team. It would be great to see Chris Paul to get a championship too. He deserves one.
Yeah,
it sure would.
I'm there.
Sure would.
Okay. Well, I'm cemented then. I am rooting for the Suns.
Well, hey, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful day, and hey, thanks for having me on the show. I could talk with you guys for hours. You know how this goes, so I appreciate you having me on. It's been my
you will be back, and you passed the original test the first time.
Yeah, we don't have to ask.
We don't need to ask you again.
No team thing. All right. Well, on behalf of Steve Reese, I'm Brent Leary.
I'm Paul Greenberg.
We are the CRM Playaz. And we can't say goodbye until we say hello to Minnie. Bye, Minnie.
Oh,
that's the old one.
That's okay.
Get that one in there too.
Very
much
nice.
better.
See you next week.